Hey, it's Benji Cole, son of Al Cole from CBS Radio and host of People of Distinction, the talk that gives an in-depth view of some of the most dynamic, intelligent, and successful people on the planet. Run to our website, peopleofdistinction.org for more info, or you can always email me directly at benji@alcoleenterprises.com. And on the line with us today, we have Dessie Williams. We're going to be discussing her amazing memoir, His Wonders to Perform. Available for purchase through Amazon as well as barnesandnoble.com. And people, get this. If you or anybody you know have a book that they'd like moved, well, do yourself a favor and contact Author Reputation Press Publishing, okay? They're the network that actually brought Dessie to us, and they're absolutely fantastic. I'm telling you, one of the best in the business at really helping you take your literary creation to the next level. So do yourself a favor. Contact ARP if you have a book that you need moved, and you can find out more information on them at authorreputationpress.com. And people, listen, it is an absolute pleasure to have Dessie here on the line. Now, the moment you go to her Amazon or her Barnes & Noble page, you start to do any research on her memoir, His Wonders to Perform, well, you instantly understand what we're discussing today, okay? Now, a couple of things. First and foremost, I love when we have artists on the network that have written memoirs, okay? I know, and I know you all can attest, once you get to a certain point in your life, you start to realize that adversity is just the name of the game, right? As much as we'd like to avoid the obstacles, A, we can't, and B, you shouldn't. And the reason why is because what you learn from those obstacles and those challenges equate ultimately to wisdom. Now, what if I told you it doesn't have to be your personal experience that wisdom is derived from? And I absolutely love it because, listen, the education is going to be wonderful within today's interview. And then when you continue to purchase the book, I'm telling you, your world is going to be opened up, okay? It's an inspirational memoir. And really, one of the underlying messages is how God can work miracles when you least expect it. I love it. I love the message. This is absolutely something I can get behind. All I want you to do is to sit back, strap in, and have your notebooks ready because the education is going to be second to none. Dessie, first and foremost, welcome to People of Distinction, and thank you very much for being a guest. How are you doing today?
Well, thank you for having me here.
Absolutely. Listen, the pleasure is all ours, okay? We get a lot of potential guests that come to our network wanting to be interviewed. So, of course, everybody doesn't get the opportunity, but there was just something about this memoir that when we were approached, it was a no-brainer. I mean, we absolutely had to seize the opportunity to have you as a guest because I truly feel the information that you're giving is truly going to help open a lot of people's eyes and really help showcase things from a different perspective. And that's as far as I'm going to go into the narrative because I don't want to steal your thunder, Dessie. Now, before we go into the book, I want to start off by learning a little bit more about your background, which I know we're going to slightly cover in the book as well. But let's start there, Dessie. Tell our listening audience a little bit more about yourself and your background.
Well, I was born to Anna and Willie Horne in 1935 on the 4th of April. I've always been glad it was the 4th of April and not the 1st, thus avoiding the title April Fool. But my parents were poor, and my father worked hard. They were married for 45 years, and they did the best they could to bring us up with, the values that they had. And always been grateful for Mama and a Daddy.
Yeah, you have it.
Because my father really instilled in us the need to get an education and the need to try to, he used to say, be what you is, and not to put on airs and stuff like that. So I always carried that with us.
There you go. Well, listen, it sounds like you were brought up with amazing parents that have instilled such wonderful values in you. And without further ado, Dessie, His Wonders to Perform. Tell us a little bit more about your narrative.
Well, I'll tell you, when I was about 60 years old, well, no, I couldn't have been that old, but when I was a grown person, a teacher, I had taught for some years, my mother and father, who were 60 and 68 at the time, called to say they had a baby boy. I was so upset with them because I knew that at their age, that child was going to fall to me because, there's always one in every family who gets to be the standard bearer for the family. And I was so mad. But I said, "Are you all losing your mind?" But they were so proud and so pleased to have this little baby. What could we do? My sister and I, and we knew eventually he'd fall to us. My cousin, whose mother, was the mother of my cousin Robert, was, not able to care for him at that time. And my mother, being the wonderful woman that she was, saw this baby who looked neglected and whatnot and said, "Willie," to my father, "let's take this boy home with us." And that's how Robert came to be a member of my family. He came home with his uncle and his aunt. I, in the meantime, of course, was teaching school and trying to carry on and be wonderful and all those things and be an actress on the side. And none of that worked, but was able to take Robert in and was so glad. Mm-hmm.
Dessie, let's talk about inspiration for a second. Now, this is clear to see why your background and everything that you and your family have embarked upon was clearly something that interested you, right? Now, I recognize the benefit of it, but I want to take a second and learn from you specifically, because this very easily could have been something that you verbally told those around you, or a book that you wrote that stayed on your personal shelf. But you didn't end there, Dessie. You put it out for the public to partake in. Why was it important for you to do so?
I thought that other people, if they heard the story of Robert and how he had come to be and how his life had been, that other parents, seeing talent, raw talent in their children, would encourage them. Because that's what we did for Robert. We had a thing in our family. We always gathered around the piano. My mother and father played the guitar, and we would sing songs, and that was great. First song I ever taught Robert on the piano was "That's Entertainment," and that was just in us. I wanted to be an actress, of course, and I loved literature, the spoken word, and everything. Used to read the Bible when I was 6 years old, and so forth like that, and I just loved that whole thing. Katharine Hepburn, Pete O'Toole, and people of that ilk just loved the spoken word and music, and it was all a part of Robert's growing up. It was a part of our family. And so when Robert attained his success, I had to give God the credit because, it was only God who saw to it, because Robert was born with extremely bow legs, which is a condition, you're lucky if you're able to walk. But my parents took him to a doctor, Brewster Hospital in Jacksonville, and they put those iron braces on his legs, and he finally grew out of that condition. And so it was just a miracle that he turned to dance, and dance led him to where he is today.
Absolutely.
The artistic director of the Alvin Ailey American Dance Theater, known all over the world. And that's just amazing to me.
Mm-hmm. Dessie, what would you say was a highlight for you in writing the book? Or if not a highlight, maybe something that surprised you that you weren't anticipating before you began?
Well, let me see, said the blind man, who, of course, could not. I think it was a joy it was interesting to me that when I told the story, I became that little girl that I was growing up. I told a lot of the book in the voice of that little girl, Dessie Horne Williams. That's Dessie Lee Horne at the time, and it was interesting to me to know that I could just really go back there in the past and bring it all up and have a lot of those same emotions that I felt when I was growing up.
Mm-hmm. People.
So they say that writing is cathartic, so I believe that now.
Absolutely. Absolutely. People, again, we're here on the line with Dessie Williams. We're discussing her amazing memoir, His Wonders to Perform, available for purchase through Amazon as well as barnesandnoble.com. Dessie, next question that I'd love to follow up with, and listen, I think it's safe to assume the answer to this next question, but you know what happens when you assume, so I'm not going to do that to you. Dessie, I have you here on the line. I'm going to go directly to the source. Who would you say is your intended audience with this book, and what is the main message that you're hoping that they receive?
Well, I would like for the parents of talented children to read the book and learn that they need to encourage their children. Whenever they see a glint of talent, they should be encouraged.
Dessie, as we start to close out of this wonderful interview, last couple of questions here. We know about your past. We know about this fantastic book. Well, I want to know about the future. Please tell me there's another one on the horizon.
Well, I don't know. You have to understand that I am now 87 years old. And I don't know that I have time enough to come up with another book, but I'm thinking.
There you go. Well, people, this is what I want you to do, okay? By the overwhelming show of support, when you go to her Amazon, her Barnes & Noble pages, and you purchase His Wonders to Perform, based upon that showing, that's really going to push her in the right direction, okay? Because we know this may not be something she has on the radar just yet, but this is something that we need, okay? So we're looking forward to it, and we hope you come across that bridge very, very soon, Dessie. Last question for you here. As I mentioned to you on the pre-screening call, I'm an artist myself, and I'm in a different medium, but I love having this platform to be able to pay it forward in a sense to other artists out there listening in. Now, Dessie, for any new writers out there right now, what would you say is words of wisdom to them about the journey that they're getting ready to embark upon?
Have faith in your own ability. Have faith in your own talent. Never mind what people say. Never mind how impossible it seems. Just go ahead and do it. That's what I'd say.
I love that. Short, sweet, direct, to the point. People, that was advice primarily geared for writers, right? For new writers. But can we just take a second and appreciate how that is advice that can be applied to anyone in any position? I mean, listen.
Exactly.
Life is going to be filled with people that criticize, right? For whatever reason, I'm not going to go. That's another rabbit hole we can go down. But people will be around to criticize. People will be around to discourage. People will be around to throw their insecurities on you. Well, at the end of the day, it's much easier said than done. But when you mute all of that, right? When you stay focused on the task at hand, that's when you're slowly going to start to chip away. And, I love that old adage about building a wall, right? Listen, you don't build a wall all at once. You lay down the mortar, you put down that brick, and you lay that individual brick as perfectly as possible.
There you go.
And then you build the next one on top of that, right? And sooner or later,
that's right,
by taking it slowly and surely in that way, eventually you'll have your wall. And I think so often, especially nowadays, which, again, another rabbit hole we can go down, and that'll be for another interview. But especially nowadays with the advancement of technology and how we are literally becoming addicted to instant gratification, people don't want to wait anymore, right? People don't want to have to work anymore. Just give it to me instantly because that's what I want. Well, let me tell you something.
Yes.
Pick up this book, His Wonders to Perform, because it's going to teach you patience, and it's going to teach you really about benefiting from those seeds that you plant. And again, it may not happen overnight, but people, this book is an amazing inspiration. And it's going to help you through any obstacle that you're coming across. And you may not be able to relate to every single one of her circumstances, but I promise you, if you slightly shift your perception, you can take the words and the messages in her book and apply it to your day-to-day lives. And at the end of the day, that's where the power is, okay? So once more, we're here on the line with Dessie Williams. And we just finished discussing her amazing book, His Wonders to Perform, available through Amazon as well as BarnesandNoble.com. A fantastic book to add to your shelf, an even better gift to add to someone else's. Dessie, this has been an absolute pleasure. Such an honor. I truly mean that. Thank you once again for being a guest on People of Distinction.
Thank you so much for having me.